Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching India Today Global. The top story is US unleashes tariffs on those who oppose it. The recent threat being a few countries who stood up against Trump's desire to purchase Greenland. The geopolitics of trade has reshaped. It started with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's recent visit to China. Carney's visit to China saw the announcement of a new strategic partnership. China will lower tariffs on Canadian canola seeds, while Canada will allow 49,000 Chinese EVs into its market. European nations voiced their opposition to Trump's ambitions about Greenland, some very sternly, others subtly. Though Trump withdrew 10% tariff that was supposed to go into effect from the 1st of Feb on a few European nations, the constant tariff threat has now made most of Europe rethink. President of European Union Commission Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President António Costa were the chief guests at India's Republic Day parade. India and EU are likely to sign a free trade agreement, which is expected to be announced at the India-EU summit in New Delhi on 27th of January. The talks for FTA started in the year 2007 but failed due to market access and regulatory rules. The talks again revived in the year 2022. Sources say India will offer to cut import duties on European cars, which means imported cars will be a lot cheaper, and India also wants access to EU market for labor-intensive sectors such as textiles, garments, leather, gems and jewelry, engineering goods and processed foods. European wines and spirits are expected to see slashed tariffs and simple certification rules. If a deal is announced, it must be ratified by the European Parliament. Now, this Republic Day, India wasn't just celebrating its rich heritage and military valor. It also became the stage for high-stakes international diplomacy. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President António Costa were chief guests. The spotlight is now on the talks between Prime Minister Modi and the EU, a meeting that could shape India-Europe relations and send ripples across the globe when it comes to trade and diplomacy. Here's a report.
At a time of shifting global alliances and rising geopolitical tension, India rolled out the red carpet for some very special guests this Republic Day. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President António Costa were the chief guests at the 2026 parade, and von der Leyen called it the honor of a lifetime. The two leaders arrived at Kartavya Path in a ceremonial buggy alongside President Draupadi Murmu, soaking in the festivities and India's rich culture. And von der Leyen certainly brought a splash of color. Ditching the usual formal jacket and trousers, she opted for a stunning brocade band gala paired with trousers, a nod to India's vibrant textile heritage. Von der Leyen was seen watching the parade closely as Prime Minister Modi explained India's cultural richness, military valor, and the story behind each march. For the first time ever, a European Union contingent also took part in the parade, with EU flag bearers riding along in two gypsy vehicles. The EU leaders' visit carries serious strategic weight, and the upcoming India-EU deal is being called the mother of all deals, after meeting with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar on Sunday. The European Union leaders are scheduled to meet Prime Minister on Tuesday for a crucial summit, with talks expected on trade, technology, climate action, and strategic cooperation. This comes against the backdrop of strained US-Europe relations and Europe taking a stand against Trump. Republic Day may have ended, but the high-stakes diplomacy continues on Tuesday. Bureau Report, India Today.
And where do the India-EU talks stack up when it comes to threats from the West, particularly the United States of America? To discuss this and more, I'm being joined by Shairi Malhotra. She's Deputy Director, Strategic Studies Program at ORF, that's Observer Research Foundation. Shairi, thank you so much for joining me. Let's begin with the India-EU talks itself. Finally, there will be an announcement, but what are the areas and how long could this take? Because we do know that it requires not just ironing out the legalities, but also clearance from the EU Parliament.
Thank you, Geeta, for having me. Well, my understanding is that the negotiations have already been concluded, and we will see an announcement tomorrow during the EU-India summit. But the deal will formally be signed at a later date. The actual text is also likely to be decided later after it's properly vetted. And even after it's signed, it will take at least a year to implement the deal because it has to be ratified by the European Parliament. That is the complexity that is the EU. And if the Mercosur deal is anything to go by, we know it was blocked by the European Parliament. So this is not something that is taken for granted or a given. Having said that, this EU-India FTA is a big deal. India has signed a spate of FTAs recently, but this is a deal that combines a market of almost 2 billion people, $24 trillion, 25% of global GDP. And that's why it's being referred to as the mother of all trade deals.
Right.
It will remove trade barriers on both sides, grant greater market access at a time when India's relations and Europe's relations with both the US and China are frayed.
Well, coming to the frayed ties over here, do you think the pace with which we've seen the conversations move forward, with now an announcement coming through, is Trump a major factor in all of this?
Well, certainly the geopolitical backdrop that we are currently operating in, on the one hand, Trump's tariff wars, but let's not forget also China's unfair trading practices have created a lot of disruptions in global trade. And this is definitely one reason why the EU-India FTA negotiations were fast-tracked. One of the ways that countries are trying to manage this disruption is by deepening partnerships elsewhere. And that's why we are seeing the 16th EU-India summit taking place tomorrow against the backdrop of headlines dominated by the Greenland saga, the prospects of further US tariffs. So there are a lot of challenges that we are seeing to the global trading system, which are, of course, being accelerated by US actions. But I would argue that the EU-India partnership in trade and strategic partnership was actually deepening even before the volatility that has been unleashed by the second Trump administration. We must remember that this whole business of de-risking supply chains, diversifying economic partners, actually had China attached to it first.
Well, also, but Sherry, look at America and look at China over here. If you're looking at both the countries, most of European countries, particularly the larger economies, are now engaging China because of the unpredictability of America.
I think they have started to perhaps engage China a little bit, and this will be an interesting area to watch going forward, especially as the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is soon going to be heading to China. Chancellor Merz, the German Chancellor, will also be heading to China shortly, and we all are aware of Germany's addiction when it comes to the Chinese market, given how intertwined German companies are with the Chinese market. But I think there is a difference, and I think European economies will continue to also, on the one hand, try and de-risk from China, particularly when it comes to critical sectors. They may continue other trade with China as usual. And that's actually quite similar to what India is doing as well. India's own trade with China, despite the border tensions, because of the disengagement at the borders, has actually, is very much on the right track and has actually increased. So I think the EU and India are looking at the China challenge through a similar perspective as well.
Right. Shairi Malhotra, thank you so much for joining us with that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, India's 77th Republic Day celebrations at Kartavya Path witnessed not just military might and cultural splendor, but a powerful moment of global symbolism. The chief guest this year, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, turned heads with her presence, her words, and her choice of attire. Tejas Gosavi decodes the diplomacy stitched into this Republic Day moment.
As the first light touched Kartavya Path, India was not just celebrating a constitution, it was projecting confidence, culture, and command. And at the heart of this national spectacle, a guest who carried Europe with her. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, chief guest at India's 77th Republic Day. She arrived not in a routine motorcade, but in a horse-drawn ceremonial buggy. A living symbol of India's heritage escorting one of the world's most powerful women in world politics. Then came the moment that caught every camera. Ursula in a maroon and gold Banarasi brocade bandgala jacket, a bespoke creation by celebrated Indian couturer Rajesh Pratap Singh, paired with off-white trousers. This was no ordinary outfit. Known worldwide for sharp power suits, she chose instead to wear India, a deliberate cultural salute blending heritage with modern diplomacy. As fighter jets thundered overhead, as marching boots struck Kartavya Path, that jacket, rich with Banarasi brocade and gold zari, became a bridge between continents, between craft and command. Moments before the parade, she wrote that being chief guest was, and I quote, the honor of a lifetime, unquote, adding that a successful India makes the world more stable, prosperous and secure. Seated beside President Draupadi Murmu and European Council President António Costa, escorted by President's bodyguards, her presence reflected India's growing global stature. On a boulevard once built to display empire, India today displays influence. Because this Republic Day, India didn't just showcase its heritage and its might. It reminded the world diplomacy is no longer only spoken, it is worn. With Tejas Gosavi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Fatal shooting of a U.S. citizen by federal immigration agents in Minneapolis has sparked national outrage. The shooting of 37-year-old Alex Pretty, who was an ICU nurse, by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent, that's an ICE agent, has been widely condemned not only by former U.S. presidents, but also by Hollywood celebrities. This is the second shooting of an American citizen by the ICE in a month. Mahashweta Lala with this report.
After the second fatal shooting of intensive care nurse Alex Pretty, who was also an American citizen in Minneapolis, US President Donald Trump, in a post on Truth Social, defended his administration's aggressive crackdown on what he called illegal alien criminals. 37-year-old Alex Pretty was shot in Minneapolis while filming DHS agents during an operation.
Our Title VIII immigration mission continues unabated here in Minneapolis, despite yesterday's tragedy that was preventable by folks making better choices, politicians, journalists, and would-be anarchists and rioters.
So now we've got 2 minutes.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz activated the Minnesota National Guard after the fatal shooting of the US citizen in Minneapolis. This is the second shooting in a month. Earlier, Rennie Good was also fatally shot by an Immigration and Customs Enforcement official in Minneapolis. In both cases, the federal agents have accused the victims of disrupting the work of law officials.
These people are not helpers. They are not enforcing the law. They are causing chaos, and they are hurting people, and they need to go.
Former US President Bill Clinton condemned the shooting of Pretty and said he never thought he would witness such things in America. Also, former President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama called the death a heartbreaking tragedy. Protesters came out into the streets and demanded that the ICE agents should leave the twin cities. Many celebrities too have spoken out against the brutal killing by ICE. Olivia Rodrigo called the actions unconscionable. Jamie Lee Curtis shared artwork related to Pretty's and Rennie Good's shooting at Minneapolis with the caption, "These were Americans shot by our government." Mark Ruffalo called the Minneapolis shooting as cold-blooded murder in the streets of the USA by an occupying military gang creating havoc. With Mahashweta Lala, Bureau Report, India Today.
China has launched an investigation into General Zhang Yuxia, Vice Chairman of the Central Military Commission, raising concerns both domestically and internationally due to allegations ranging from corruption to leaking sensitive nuclear weapons data to the United States of America. The Ministry of National Defense stated the probe was initiated for serious violations of discipline and law, while further details have not been provided by Chinese authorities. According to Wall Street Journal, the allegations include leaking core technical data from China's nuclear weapons program to the United States. The allegations also include accepting large bribes in exchange for promotions, suggesting a broader pattern of corruption within the military. Additional scrutiny is reportedly being placed on officers promoted under Zhang, with authorities seizing mobile devices from individuals linked to the case. And here are some other stories from across the world and World at a Glance.
Del cielo, Ina Rodríguez Gómez
a la vanguardia de la felicidad económica.
Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez said she had enough of Washington's orders. A month after being in her new role since the capture of Nicolas Maduro, Rodriguez pushed back on the US amid ongoing pressures, including a series of demands for Venezuela to resume oil production. The European Union has launched a wide-reaching probe into Elon Musk's Grok chatbot on X following global outrage over its ability to generate sexually explicit images, including of children. In a press notice, the European Commission said it would examine whether the tech platform properly assessed and mitigated risk associated with the deployment of Grok's functionalities into X in the EU. France plans to follow Australia in banning social media for younger teenagers. A debate on this opens in National Assembly. The law, if passed, will block access for under 15-year-olds to networks such as Snapchat, Instagram and TikTok. President Emmanuel Macron has said he wants the ban in place by the start of the school year in September. The United Arab Emirates has withdrawn from plans to operate Islamabad International Airport. The proposal deal was under discussion since August 2025. This comes after UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan's visit to India.
For decades, India bought its power from abroad. Today, it is building it at home. Republic Day showcased more than weapons. It revealed a shift in strategy, industry and intent. From missiles to fighter jets, India is redefining how strength is made and sustained. So is this the moment India truly becomes a defense power in its own right? We tell you on Statecraft.
Lieutenant Colonel Sudeep with Major Aditya flying the second Apache.
Lieutenant Arjun Kashyap of 6 Lancers. Suryastra and the BrahMos weapon system.
This Republic Day, India's military might made a statement unlike any before. Tejas jets carved streaks across the sky. Arjun tanks rolled with precision, and BrahMos missiles underscored a nation producing its own strategic firepower. Indigenous artillery, rockets, and advanced defense systems are no longer ambitions on paper. They are operational realities showcasing a defense ecosystem that India now owns from design to deployment. As the nation marks its 77th year of sovereignty, can India's leap from importer to innovator truly redefine its military strength and secure its place as a global defense power? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. What does a Republic Day parade really communicate in today's strategic environment? Is it tradition or is it doctrine made visible? On India's 77th Republic Day, the weapons that rolled down Kartavya Path were not chosen for spectacle. They were chosen for messaging. Each platform told a story about where India's military comes from and where it is going. You see, military parades reveal as much about political culture as they do about armed forces. China's Victory Day parade on the 3rd of September is designed as a demonstration of scale and intimidation. Long columns of missiles, massed formations, and tightly choreographed symbolism meant to project industrial and authoritarian power. The United States 2025 Army Parade under President Trump, by contrast, appeared disjointed, heavy on spectacle, light on strategic messaging, reflecting a politicized show of force rather than doctrinal clarity. Republic Day parades have always doubled as strategic signaling. During the Cold War, they showcased imported strength. This year, the emphasis was unmistakably indigenous. The light combat aircraft Tejas, the Akash air defense system, Arjun main battle tank, and the advanced towed artillery gun system ATAGS were not simply on display. They were positioned as symbols of a structural shift. Let's take Tejas first. For decades, India's air power depended almost entirely on foreign fighters. Tejas represents a break from that cycle. The light combat aircraft program was born after sanctions exposed India's vulnerability. It took time and criticism, but Tejas delivered something no import ever could: design ownership. Akash provides layered air defense against aircraft, drones, and missiles, threats central to both Chinese and Pakistani doctrines. Pinaka, developed after operational lessons from Kargil, gives India rapid, high-volume precision firepower. These systems are designed around Indian terrain, Indian logistics, and Indian operational realities. ATAGS and Arjun complete the picture. While details remain classified, the implications are clear. Indian integrated surveillance, communications, and precision systems reduced decision cycles and increased operational tempo. Pakistan's military infrastructure and proxy networks faced sustained pressure without India being constrained by foreign supply considerations. This is the quiet power of indigenous capability. If Pakistan is the operational test case, China is the strategic benchmark. China's military power is inseparable from its defense industrial scale. The PLA does not just field weapons, it produces them in depth. Tanks, artillery, missiles, drones, aircraft, manufactured to sustain long conflicts. Moreover, French aerospace major Dassault Aviation and India's Tata Advanced Systems Limited have signed 4 agreements to jointly manufacture the fuselage of Rafale fighter aircraft in India. This will mark production of the critical component for the first time outside France. All of this just shows that India's approach now is selective acquisition combined with indigenous absorption. So what did the 77th Republic Day really show? It showed a country that has learned from dependence, preserved partnerships, built industrial depth, and begun exporting power, not just consuming it. From importer to innovator is not a slogan. It is the result of decades of strategic correction. And in a world of contested supply chains and converging threats, that correction may be India's most important defense achievement yet. Thank you for watching Statecraft. And that's all on India Today Global for now. Thanks so much for watching. But before I go, I leave you with visuals of US climber Alex Honnold, who made an hour-and-a-half free solo ascent of Taiwan's Taipei 101 skyscraper, one of the world's tallest buildings without ropes. The 1,667 feet tall Taipei 101, which dominates the city's skyline and is a major tourist attraction, was the tallest building in the world from 2004 to 2010. A crown currently held by Burj Khalifa. Enjoy the visuals. Goodbye and take care.